Welcome everybody to another episode of Stoli Dolly Scaries.
I'm your host, John Ritchie Jr.
And I'm your host, Corinne. And today we are watching the summer classic, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 2003. Just could be a one. Not the classic. The newer one.
I'm thinking maybe that sounds more like a vacuum and not.
No, that was pretty good. What's the tagline?
What you know about fear doesn't even come close.
I don't know
Inspired
what
by a
that
true
means.
story. It's always inspired by a true story.
I always thought this was inspired by a true story, especially when I lived in Texas, Travis County. I always thought there was this was maybe not totally true, but based off of something that maybe possibly happened. And I always thought that made it a lot scarier. And kind of finding out that it didn't,
Womp womp.
Cool. I will say my first bone to pick with this flick, and I have many, but my first is that they have, for some unknown reason, they have based it in the 70s. I don't know why and they don't lean into it enough, really at all. They're listening to Lynyrd Skynyrd, and Pepper has on a peasant skirt. But I feel like they why didn't they just do it as if it was today when they were going to a Kesha concert? I don't know. I felt like it was unnecessary, and I don't think they did it well enough. I think they kind of just barely tapped their toe in the 70s and just and I think if they had done it 2003, I think it would have made it more original, more the fact that they leaned into the 70s thing really bugged me.
Yeah. Well, this one, right, was a remake of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's supposed to be the original remade 2003. They're going back to that. When was the original one in the 70s?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they were trying to keep their facts straight. Yeah, I mean, for me, in 2003, I always go back to this. What was my age in 2003? I was 16, I think. So this was right around the sweet spot of I could go see horror movies sort of thing. And I also didn't know the original when I was 16, or I knew of it but never watched it.
So
or if I did, it was
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I mean, it kind of was. I knew that it was a remake, right? So I was like, okay, cool. Let's see this updated version and whatever. And I remember watching it then, and I was enthralled. It was great. It still is great to me, and we'll go over it. We'll talk about a lot of different things, but
maybe because you have that nostalgia element. I don't think I saw this until I was 10 years after it came out. I was way too young. I think I was 12 when this came out, maybe. And I was way too young to see it. And I think I remember watching it in college with my buddies and just being And it wasn't even I had never seen the OG either. I don't, it was more just I don't know. I'm not a fan of gore for the sake of gore. And I'll say I don't think the original is that gory. They allude to a lot, but we don't see a lot. In this movie, you see a lot. And and a lot of times it's not necessary, and the scene goes on way too long. And I do think it's very 2003, and they were really leaning into giving what they thought the people wanted. But I didn't want it.
Fan service. I mean, it didn't get a lot of great reviews and such.
No, but so many people who follow us, when I posted the video of watching it, DM'd me and were like, "That's such a great movie, and that's so good." People really,
yeah,
it is beloved by a certain audience. I think people that have maybe that saw it at the time of, because for 2003, it's a pretty good movie. I think it could have used some editing. I think some things could have been, trimmed up.
Maybe trim some of the fat.
Yeah,
there's a couple storylines that I'm not fond of, but we're gonna discuss. Right?
All right. Today's cocktail is going to be, of course, the Bloody Chainsaw. It is a Texas play on the Bloody Mary, and we will be taking a sip. anytime they could have escaped their fate, but made a decision that led them right into the belly of Leatherface.
Yeah. Anytime a crisis could have been averted.
Absolutely.
Or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Mm-hmm. I at first I had it very specific to Beale. Like anytime Jessica Biel made a decision that fucked everybody, but then towards the end, other people are making, it limited us. So I had to be inclusive of the other perpetrators here. But
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Texas Chainsaw Massacre released in theaters October 17th, 2003, starring Jessica Biel, Jonathan Tucker, Erica Learson, Mike Vogel, Eric Balfour, and R. Lee Ermey. It starts out with some grainy black and white footage of cops at a crime scene, and this is very reminiscent of the OG. It's even the same narrator.
The film which you are about to see is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 youths.
It is all the more tragic in that they were young, but had they lived very, very long lives, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to see as much of the mad and macabre as they were to see that day. I want to start saying macabre. I don't really know what that means, but it seems like important.
Gruesome.
Like
dark.
a very smart word for what it is.
Yes.
I'm going to start trying to work that into conversations. For them, an idyllic summer afternoon became a nightmare. And he goes on to say, for years, the cold case files collected dust in the Travis County Police Department. But the most compelling footage was the classified police footage that was of the crime scene walkthrough. And it cuts to a cop with a little microphone, black and white. He's going down into a basement. He's pointing out the, scratch marks, the hair, like a little icky. And then we get a quick cut to the opening credits of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like accompanied by
that was good.
It's kind of out of place. And then it cuts to a couple kids in a lake, and we get the opening of Sweet Home Alabama. It's a happy song. It's a happy tune. We get another title card that says August 18th, 1973, and we cut to a bunch of hot youths in a van. 2 of the kids are hardcore making out in the back, heavy petting, while Jessica Biel and her beau sit in the front seat. Jessica Biel is in a very iconic, she's in her iconic wife beater, cowboy hat. She's a smoke show. Nobody could pull it off like her, truly. Because I did try. And you have to have a specific color scheme to pull off a wife beater. And just like a confidence about you that I don't have,
Listen, we're hot. We're heavy. The filter on this, the filter is giving that color palette used in Instagram, in the cinema shots. You're like, wait a minute, have we talked about this before? It's dust, it's blue sky, it's cool tones for shadows, muted greens, but there's no vibrance in here. There's no reds, there's no bright yellows, blues.
No, it's muted. It's muted. It's like it's dirty Texas 70s summer.
And honestly, fucking damp and sweaty, which is like in every shot.
There are some scenes where I'm like, just how hot are these folks? Like, I mean, the blonde hottie is just dripping at one point. So shit's hot in Texas. They are jamming to Lynyrd Skynyrd, and we find out that the 2 kids in the back, Pepper and Andy, only just met yesterday. And Pepper is like kind of waxing poetic, like, oh my God, can you believe it? Like just 19 hours ago, I was hitching and you picked me up. And what are the chances of that? The other youth in the back, Morgan, he's obviously meant to be in my opinion, the sarcastic, comedic relief. I don't like him. He doesn't hit it for me. It never quite lands, his little quips, but he goes on and he rattles off a statistic to them about how how many people are infected with STDs each year, and how it's about their age bracket that are the most affected. Again, this is when I say they don't know shit about the 70s. This is right after the sexual revolution. Nobody cared about STDs. That didn't become a thing until the 80s, when we had big scares. This was not a time to worry about that. This was a time for free love. It's one of the reasons I would want to live in the 70s. So this doesn't match up with it.
Yeah, it's doing a disservice to the era that you wanted to be a part of. And so when you sniff out the fakes, when you quote unquote smell the bullshit, you said, fuck this.
Yes.
And I feel that 100%. From you.
Yeah.
I feel that.
And there's just also, we don't have a Google machine. There's no way he could have found that statistic because a book in a library wouldn't have up-to-date resources. I just, I have a lot of questions. This has become a ladder.
No, see, that's one of the reasons why I think he's supposed to be, the nerd in this scene. I mean, he's not with a partner. He's just a stoner. He knows some facts. Maybe, nerds are smart. And you know what? When I saw this at 16 years old, I was like, would. And I think this says a lot about me and, the type of people that I enjoy.
Of the entire cast, that's the wood for you?
Well, no. Most of them are woods. There are a couple once as well. But the he's the sheriff. He can talk to me. But
he's witty.
He's hilarious. He's hilarious. No, I think Morgan is maybe top 3. Either way, this is one of the hottest casts I think that we have ever discussed on the pod, and I will stand by that statement. You can fight me later or bring up the real.
It's the Lost Boys. Everybody, but I think I'm going to put a poll.
We're going to put a poll.
On the pod, on our Instagram of who is the hottest ensemble that we have spoken about. And I guarantee Lost Boys is going to be... I don't know who else to put on the poll, though, because we have Lost Boys, Texas Chainsaw, and then...
I'm gonna tell you right now, there is a moment when I was looking at some of the pictures online, and I said, my God. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Wowzers. I mean, Morgan is kind of giving Dreyfus in Jaws. And
he doesn't have the pizzazz that Dreyfus has, though.
But I'm just saying, like, the look, the little bit of the curlies, the dirt stash, the glasses.
But he's such a weasel that I think it makes him unattractive. Maybe if I saw him out in the wild and just like life, I could see. But like, I hate his character a lot. I think he's such a tool. So anyway, Morgan throws some water on Pepper's libido. She jumps off Andy. He freaked her out with the STD talk. Again, very unrealistic. Nobody gave a shit. Whatever. As they're driving, they're talking about the trip to Mexico that they all just took. And we find out that Jessica Biel's character, Erin, didn't drink or smoke or partake in any of the festivities.
Now, did they just get done this, or were they on their way to Mexico?
They just came back from Mexico.
Okay.
I don't know what she thought they are making it clear that she didn't partake in the weed smoking or the drinking or whatever. And Kemper, her beau, is like, well, why did you want to be there? Why did you go? And she makes a comment about how she was hoping for a wedding ring. I don't get this connection here. And I know this is important. That's the only reason, because I didn't include this, and then it becomes important later on. So I had to come back and stick it in here. But I don't know why she thought going to Mexico would get her a wedding ring. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't think it's thought out here. Another thing that I don't think is really thought out about this movie, but she was hoping for a wedding ring by going to Mexico on this trip with them. He tells her, you'll get it one day, baby, or, I'm working on it, some shit like that. And he offers her a joint as like a peace offering. And she pulls one of those like, and she throws it out the window. and chuckles, wasteful. And, at first everyone's like, whoa, what? And Morgan says, nobody get upset. We got about 2 pounds of it in the back. Like, I don't know why anybody cares. And Erin pulls like a turn, like a double take, because she had no idea. And then she's very upset because she realized that they went to Mexico to get some pot, and it's a whole thing. But she gets over it like that. He like is like, oh, but come on. He like kind of flirts with her, like, how much do you love me? I don't know. She folds like a blanket. It's annoying. And then he asks for a kiss. And it's not a quick smoocheroo. It is like a give me a kiss. It's a like eyes fully closed, fully like tilted over, and it feels like forever that they are kissing. And we know something bad's about to happen. And the car, obviously, they almost hit somebody who is walking in the middle of the road. There's like a girl walking, and they're in this like barren Texas road where they were most likely not expecting somebody to be. And they almost hit this girl who, she's like 20, 25, 24. That doesn't matter. I don't really matter. She's a young girl. She's like their age. And she's walking kind of aimlessly. Like she almost looks like she's in a trance. Jessica Biel, Miss Good Samaritan, calls out to ask if she's okay. She doesn't get a response. So her and Pepper decide to jump out of the van and go run up to her, ask if she's okay. She's not responding to any of their questions. She just keeps reiterating, like, I got to get away. I got to get away from here. I got to get away. And Erin says, oh, gosh, no, we can't leave her out here. So they literally pull her by the hand into the van. They literally take her and pull her into the van to try to help her out. And this is a big drink alert. This is maybe the biggest drink alert of all, because had they not done that, had they not done this Good Samaritan bullshit, they would have been at Skynyrd. They would have been listening to Freebird. But they did this, and this is the demise of the whole crew. So they pull her into the van.
Hold on, wait a minute. I need to hear, place yourself in the 70s. You're hanging with your friends. You're smoking that weed. You're on your way to a baller concert. You see this girl. What do you do?
I would have stopped I would have called out. I said, hey, are you okay? And I would see that she was physically unharmed, and I would be on my way. Can't lie.
I think them getting out of the car, this level of like protective girl's girl, whatever you want to call it, might as well be Love Island. We may as well be on Love Island, where all of the girls are so supportive of each other. Where's Ariana Madix in this moment? We love to see it, honestly. But let's not forget our wits about us. Am I right? I mean, she seems very unwell. Give her some water.
Very. Her lips are chapped. Give her some chapstick. I mean, it cracked.
I was doing that the whole time.
Whole time.
Where's the moisture?
Yeah. Baby girl needs help. Baby girl does need help. I will say, I put in my notes, like, I appreciate what they were doing and the ladies helping ladies, and that Pepper jumped out with her, and it's a kind gesture, but it is the ultimate reason for what happens to them. They pull her into the van. She is sitting in the back, and they're all like, she's sitting in the back by herself, and they're all like kind of surrounding her, like staring at her. She's crying with her crusty lips, and nobody is saying really anything. And Jessica Biel is trying to be nice, and she asks what her name is, and the girl responds, they're all dead. And everybody kind of like sits up at this, like, what the fuck? Not that they weren't already, but now they're definitely paying attention. The van passes by a meat factory, and the girl just absolutely freaks out, like, no, we can't go back. No, you're going the wrong way. And she like jumps into the passenger seat to try to pull the wheel. She's freaked out, and they finally get her off Kemper, and he stops the van. She just continues to freak out, and she just keeps reiterating, like, I won't go back there. I won't go back there. I won't go back there. And she pulls a gun from fucking nowhere. Maybe this is my biggest issue with the whole movie. Where was that? She was not clenching her thighs when she was walking in the road. How did that gun get in between her thighs and stay there? There's no tape. I do not like all the questions that arise from this, but she pulls a gun from out of nowhere and she looks at them and says, "You're all gonna die." She doesn't say it like that. She says, like, "You're all gonna die." She says it like that, not foreboding. I just said it more in like, y'all are doomed. And she puts the pistol in her mouth and she pulls the trigger. And this is an amazing shot. I will say, I do not like this movie, but this is really incredible. They do a shot where they have the camera on the front seat where Beale and Kemper are, and they pull it back. So we just see the reactions of everybody freaking out. And then it pulls through the hole in her mouth that she just shot. And it like pulls through the back of the van. And it is like a really artsy shot for a 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. It was really impressive.
This is one of the moments when I was 16 and I said, "Oh, fuck." And I probably said it like that. Holy shit. First of all, the performance of the girl. She's in the movie maybe 1 minute total.
These side players are really the stars of the movie. She is a star. Yeah.
Special. I'm just like, believable, hot, sweaty performance. This shit happens in the blink of an eye. No pun, because she shoots herself through the mouth.
Yeah. It was
the character reactions, believable. We also get, when a gunshot happens, your ears, you get a little ring and then it goes mute for a minute. The same thing happened in the film. And it was just and there was no sound. And it's not until Pepper gets out and starts vomiting that we eventually hear sound again. It was all of my senses were living in this moment.
Very well done. Very well done. The, like, smoke billowing from her mouth. Like, it's almost too realistic. Like, it felt very real. It felt like we were in the car with them. Yeah. And I do applaud them from the scene. This was very well done.
This is maybe why I love this film, if I'm thinking about it, honestly. Because there are so many moments like that for me in here.
So, yeah, obviously they're all freaked out. Pepper jumps out of the van. She throws up, starts screaming uncontrollably because she's got the girl's blood on her shoulder. I get it. Ooh. Everybody gets out, and right away the blame game begins. Morgan is shouting, "Why the fuck did we have to pick her up? Why did we stop?" And Jessica Biel's like, "She needed help." She's a little crusader. I don't enjoy Saint Jessica Biel, but sure, she did need help, but we don't really know because she didn't talk to you. She was just, maybe she was on a nice walk in the middle of the room. We don't know what she wanted. So whatever, but he needed help. So the girls are kind of freaking off aside. Du Bois get together and are like, let's come up with a plan. What are we going to do? And Kemper immediately says, we got to call the cops. And Morgan is worried about the weed and what are you thinking? What are we do? We can't do that because blah, blah, we'll search the van. And Kemper is a man and he takes the weed pinata that they put all of the weed in this like colorful pinata to hide it. So clever. And he takes it and he throws it into the cow field and is like, problem solved and we're going to do the right thing and weed be damned. They jump back in the van with the homegirl in the back and they decide to try to find somewhere to call the cops. And they see a gas station. They stop. Pepper and Erin get out and they go to find a bathroom. And it's just to be noted, Kemper threw the weed pinata and he said, he was going to sell it. He was going to start a light for them. And Beale kind of just like shoos him off. Like she's just like scoffs at him. Like, ugh. When they get to the gas station, she's still really salty towards him. And
she's salty because she didn't know that they took pounds of weed, but like a drug mule.
But like moments ago, she forgave him. She kissed him. and made the whole like, I love you this big. She did a whole fucking thing. So which meant like she forgave him. And now all of a sudden she's backpedaling. And it's like, girl, I think she's redirecting because who we should all be mad at right now is Jessica fucking Biel for demanding they pick up this hitchhiker. And
no, no. Let's not forget this was before someone's head got blown off. I thought it was playful in the car, and then she realized that she was, not really even duped. She was lied to in her relationship, which makes me feel a lot of ways. And then they get to this gas station. I mean, like, she's upset about the whole scenario. And also, I don't know. I don't put full blame
because we should all be mad at her.
I mean, none of them pulled the trigger. She did this shit herself.
She was the one that dragged old dirty nightgown into the fucking car. None of this would have happened if she didn't do that. And I don't think she takes enough of the responsibility that all of this is her fucking fault. Her Good Samaritan thing got them all fucked. But it's fine. She's pissed at him. So the boys head into the gas station to try to phone the sheriff. And we meet an older woman who, again, these side characters they're like a million times better and more believable to me than our main ensemble cast. This lady, I believe she runs that gas station. And she's like an old Southern, what are you doing here? And that was in New York. I don't know why I did that. But they come in and they let her know that a girl committed suicide in their van and they need to call the sheriff. So she calls the sheriff up. They don't have any conversation with the sheriff. And that is to be noted. She is the sole person on the phone with the cop. She's kind of just relaying what they're saying. Like, it was, about 5 minutes up the road and blah, blah. And she hangs up and she tells them that the sheriff will meet them at the old Crawford Mill. Do you mind? Like, he can't come here, but you mind going there? And they're like, oh, fucking yeah, we do mind. We got a dead girl in our car. And she's like, I love this. They're like, what do you expect us to do? Just drive around with the dead girl in the back of our van? And she says, what y'all do with your business is your business. And the way, like, the close-up on her face is like, it is really stunning. I love it. I do. I love this whole scene.
I knew you would love her too. I saw that. I was like, she kind of looks like old Mama Fratelli in the Goonies for some reason. She's given that like, she's given that that energy, and I really appreciate it. I mean, the shop is a fucking wreck. There's skank meat and like whatever,
thousands of flies over the pig head. It's pretty sick up in there. So they're peeved, but they don't really have a choice, so they all jump back in the van to head to the old Crawford Mill.
There is one moment where Erin tries to get back in the car. They got to drive over or whatever, and she says, I just want to go home, okay? And you're like, that's what that bitch was saying too.
Yeah, the connection. Yes, that is true. That is true. Again, different. Because I just thought, what, fuck you. You would be home if you hadn't picked up that hitchhiker. I didn't think about the connection of this friend end. And yes, you're right. That is a good. Stupid. So they jump in the van and they go to the old Crawford Mill. They get there. No sheriff, but they didn't really look. They literally hop into the van and like, we don't, he's not here. What are we going to do?
Know if they're at the damn Crawford Mill.
Yeah, they literally just come to a building. And Morgan suggests that they just drop the body off there and get the hell out of Dodge. Kemper, I think, suggests, well, let's put it to a vote. And obviously, Du Bois vote to dump her. The blonde hottie, Andy and Morgan, it's a clear yes. And Kemper kind of hesitates and he says, baby, she's dead. And Biel is like, well, she's somebody's daughter. She's somebody's sister. And, she matters. She makes a whole stink. This is a drink alert. If they would have just dropped the body, none of this would have happened. But they don't and what ends up happening to her body is far worse than if they would have just dumped her ass at this mill. But fucking Miss Crusader.
I mean, the fact that before even the Crawford Mill, this bitch in the backseat has got newspaper clippings all over her and all sorts of stuff. They don't want to look at her. It's starting to stink. Listen, I thought them having the discussion is a very high pressure situation. These are the conversations I now put myself in. If something were to come down to like a realistic, it's very, I know what you did last summer. You know, you hit the body, you don't know what to do with it. Oh my God, what the fuck? We just leave it. As an audience, you're like, just fucking dump it.
I think, look, I mean, they did the most. They drove away with this girl because they could have really, realistically, they could have dumped her on the side of the road. But they tried. They called the sheriff. Sheriff isn't meeting them. How much responsibility do you really need to take? Because in reality, you've tried to help this girl. Like, they've done so many things that have kind of bitten them in the ass. And so at what point do you say, like, I'm done with this? I would have said it a long time ago. But I do think it doesn't really matter what Kemper says because, again, Beale runs the roost and she makes a whole stink about him saying that. And we don't really get, she literally walks away. She's like, you know, that's somebody's daughter. And then she walks away and everybody follows her and they're looking for the sheriff. Like, they're not throwing in the towel yet. They're going to look around this mill for the sheriff. It's fucking textbook spooky. They got dirty baby dolls everywhere. And it's like very much like Backyard of the Sandlot. It's icky. And as they kind of come to a clearing and they're kind of waiting in this area where the back of them is the warehouse. And of course, we see someone pass by them. We see like a shadow. And Morgan and Pepper see it, but nobody else sees it. Beale thinks they're messing with them because everything's about her. And she says, you guys are just trying to scare me, so we leave. And so she goes to check it out. Tough girl. And she kind of wanders in, not very far at all, and all of a sudden starts screaming and calls out for Kemper. They all come running in. And I don't know what, she didn't see anything. She heard like a squeak. I don't know what she was specifically screaming about, but she gets them all in. And Kemper, tough guy, gets in front and he opens it up and it's a possum. And they all scream and they close it. And then maybe this is the only moment of levity for any of them. I think it's the only moment I really see them laugh, where they all like laugh at themselves, like, oh, we were scared and it was a possum.
Yeah.
And then they still hear something. Kemper, big man, he's like, if someone's here, show yourself. And it ends up being a really creepy, like disheveled little boy on the dirtiest mattress that ever existed. And then he comes out and they have a little chat with him outside. They find out his name is Jedediah. Of course it is. And they ask him where the sheriff is. And he says, at home getting drunk. And Morgan says, all right, let's split. Like, you know, it's time. Let's go. This is another drink alert. If they had just split, if they would have just done it. God damn it. They don't split. They do not escape their fate. Kemper asks Jedediah for directions to the sheriff's house. And he says, well, there's no road that will go there, but you can walk there. So he gives them directions. Beale and Kemper make it to the sheriff's house, or what they think is the sheriff's house. And it's this like it's exactly what I think of when I think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like a beautiful giant white house with these pillars, but it's like dirty with like very tall grass that's unkept. Beautiful, but it's really spooky. It's really dirty. So they go up and they knock on the door, and a grumpy old man in a wheelchair comes out, and he says, like, sheriff isn't here, but you can call him if you want. Jessica Biel is like very grateful. She goes into the house and Kemper goes to follow her, and old man Rivers stops him and says, I don't want no trouble. I only need the girl. And it bugs me a lot that Kemper just takes him for his, like, doesn't Doesn't say boo here. He's just like, okay, old man. He like laughs. He's like, okay, I'll stay out here. I don't know. Maybe he just thought nothing could happen with this man in a wheelchair, and like maybe he just thought there was no danger here. But I don't like this. I think he accepts this way too easily. He allows his girlfriend to go into this giant mansion where he doesn't know who the fuck is in there, and she disappears in. Major red flag.
I think maybe it just gives more into, I guess, Kemper's character and the fact that he, I don't know, respects elders, also isn't worried about his girlfriend in this setting because this old man is in a wheelchair. I don't know.
Again, yeah, maybe I'm plagued by the world, our current reality, where you would never fucking let somebody go into a stranger's house by themselves when they make such a stink about you can't go in. Like only, that's a red flag, but it was the 70s. It's free love. So yeah, maybe he just wasn't worried at all. That's fine. So she goes in and he dials the sheriff for her. Cut back to the gang at the Crawford Mill. They're just farting around by the van when who should pull up but the sheriff. And this is the most typical town cop that ever lived in a movie. Like, he is the quintessential town cop. Doesn't believe these kids, and boy, says a lot of boy. That's, I mean, a quintessential horror movie town cop. He spits out his dip. He moseys on up to the van. He makes a weird joke. Now I'm betting this is the dead body. He says something like that. Like, I'm betting this is your dead body. He's inappropriate. He's not like what you would think of when you think of the law.
He's brash. He's disgusting. He humiliates everyone, but he does have a sense of humor. And funny. Some reason the back and forth, he's a true manipulator.
Just seems like a typical man in power, like manipulating the system.
Who's using their power for bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. We cut from that back to Jessica Biel. And she is on the phone, and we just hear her side of it. And she says, "Oh, great. He'll be there in 30 minutes. Thank you." And she's jazzed. She hangs up, and she calls out to the man to thank him for letting him use her phone. And he says, "Well, wait. Can you help me out?" This is another moment. Had she not done that, had she not helped him out, but she immediately goes, and homeboy, God, he is in the bathroom, and he has just emptied his catheter, I guess, and she really brazenly walked. If this had been me, I'd been like, "What's going on?" And I would have stayed in the hallway, but she really brazenly walks in, like, "What do you need? How can I help you?" And he asked for help getting back into his wheelchair. And it's just like, he lives alone. Or if he doesn't live alone, he lives with somebody that typically helps him. Like, he can get into his wheelchair. This is a huge red flag. This is a huge questioning moment. Like, this isn't like somebody that fell out of their wheelchair in the middle of the road and, couldn't get their bearings. This is his home where he's got tons of access to things that will help him. And she doesn't think about that. And so she tries to help him. And that's really nice. As she's helping him, we just see like her back and his vantage point of watching something in the hallway, and we see something or somebody pass by. They love doing that in this movie. They love the pass by. We cut back to the sheriff. He's kind of accusatory towards the youths right off the bat. He's asking them where'd she get this gun she used? And they're like, well, she just had it. But he's setting things up for later. Cut back to the spooky house with Jessica Biel and the man in the wheelchair. And she's still trying to help him up. And things are escalating here. He's like, he's grabbing her ass. And I really don't like the scene. Also, I don't know how, with the low rise of those jeans, that they just didn't come right the fuck down, but they don't. Somehow they stay on, which is the true miracle. Kemper has decided at this point to go in, be a man, and look for her. It's been a little while now, and it's just getting weird. So He goes in, he sees, pigs running around. It's fucking gross. It's what I would have expected. I don't know why this stands out to him, but he sees a little TV with some cartoons on it, and he decides to like kind of peek in there. He sees like a bracelet somehow falls on the ground, and he opens the door and he goes to look at the bracelet. And this is when old Leatherface comes out, pops out of nowhere, and boop, bangs him on the back of the head, knocks him right the fuck out, and drags him out and behind a door and shuts it. It's very similar to the original, but a little bit different, but that initial, like, the most jarring thing for me in the original is that sound when he clocks him on the head. It's like very disturbing, and I think they kind of nailed that here. I think they did a good job.
I think the effect of Kemper's like body, when you hit something but it's not dead yet, and it's just like shaking. It doesn't that, and him dragging him is so quick. I just am like, fuck.
So at this point, Beale hears something, and she finally leaves catheter guy on the floor and decides to go investigate. So we see her leave and like calling out for Kemper. We cut back to old sheriff being inappropriate as fuck. Like every single time we cut back to them, it's like a little bit like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And this is like perhaps the worst. He is wrapping the fucking body in plastic wrap, just making the most icky comments you can imagine. He asks Hot Blonde for help, and he has this poor guy. He gets in and he's like holding up her head as this guy is like plastic wrapping her. Why? I don't know why nobody's really questioning this, but nobody is, and they're just helping him. And he says something like, I used to love doing this back in the day. I used to, cop a feel. And in the meantime of him saying this, we also see that little dirty Jedediah looking through the hole in the van, watching. It's icky. And
lift her up. She ain't gonna bite you. She's deader than a goddamn door now.
He has the best lines in the whole movie. I mean, they're really awful, but it's like some pizzazz, because for me, I do think this movie really falls flat for me personally. I don't think the dialogue is anything spectacular except for these side characters. And he's one of them where I'm like, oh man. He says something about like, oh, she's a little wet down there. You guys been playing with this dead body? He says something like, what the fuck? It's very not out of place, but again, there's been very little comedic anything in this movie, and so this is like, whoa, like right away. This is like a lot of like jolts and about a 2-minute moment.
I shouldn't actually be laughing, but when something is so shocking, it's funny. I don't know why it's funny, but it is.
All
really
you can do is laugh. It's really outlandish and unexpected considering the tone of the movie, and I was like, what the fuck? So back at the creepy house, Beale is still looking for Kemper, like barely. She walks in the hallway, Kemper! She tries to open a door. It's locked. She turns around. The door has like an eyeglass thing on it. And so we see that like Leatherface is looking at her, but nothing really comes of that. She kind of thinks she hears something, but she like is whatever. She leaves She leaves that room. The wheelchair guy comes out, and he's now in his wheelchair. She says, where is he? And he says, I don't know, but he's not in my house. And she doesn't question it, and she just leaves. Back with the creepy sheriff, homegirl is wrapped up now. She is fully
mummified.
And the boys are carrying her to the sheriff's, cop car. And Pepper says kind of under her breath, like, this is just so wrong. And the sheriff snaps at her. I have as much respect for a dead body as anybody else. And he makes a whole thing at her. And then in the next breath, he sees the boys put her body in the back seat. And he said, hey, get that nasty thing out of my car and put it in the trunk. That's good. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Honestly, I laughed out loud.
Same.
Oh. Oh, Jesus.
He's so good.
Get that nasty goddamn thing out of the back seat of my goddamn car.
Nasty thing.
Put it in the trunk. What the hell's the matter with you?
So they take her and they put her in his trunk and they lock it, and away he goes. Back at Leatherface's lair, we see him prepping Kemper's body. He's getting ready to fuck around with him. I mean, I don't enjoy these parts of the movie. I don't need to see. I don't need to see any of this.
I want to see it all.
I know. It's too much, and these scenes last too long. But I don't even remember the specifics of what he's doing here. But they're showing a lot of like his little potions and his little torture devices and
hands in the petroleum jelly, grabs a razor. He's searching for something. And on the table is the head of a man with glasses. Just a decapitated head.
Yeah. So he's been busy. He's got a whole operation here. Kemper's in trouble. Things ain't looking good for that guy. Beale makes it back to the youths, and they tell her she just seems so out of touch. She's like, "Good news, guys. The sheriff's going to be here in 30 minutes." And they're like, "He just fucking rolled away with the plastic wrap body." They're like, "No, he's gone. They took her." And she says, "Well, where's Kemper?" And they're like, "Well, he went with you. We haven't seen him." And this is where I think she starts to like panic. You can see it in her eyes. Like now she's concerned. She sets off looking for him. She's shouting his name, Kemper, Kemper. And they all kind of follow in suit after her. As they're walking, they hear a car horn in the distance. So they're looking for it. They find the car, and the car has a stick that is pressing on, the car horn. So somebody clearly planted that. This is a plant. This is a red flag. And then under the car, they find some teeth. This is all. I didn't put this as a moment where they should have laughed. This is a moment where they should have turned around. But this is a moment that they should have turned around. But they don't. They're like, "That's weird." They continue to search around. Morgan, this is fucking unbelievable. Talk about reading the room.
Yeah.
He sees there's like a hole in a car, I guess. I don't maybe a hole in a trunk. And so he is continuously looking at something, and he says, "I think I see." And he reaches in and he starts screaming like, "Ah!" Like something's got his arm. And they're all freaking out like, "Oh my God." And they're trying to help him. And then he pulls something out and is like laughing like, it's all joke. Perfect time for a joke, buddy.
He got over that suicide real quick.
Yeah, he's somebody who uses comedy, obviously. So,
well, I can relate.
Me too. So he pulls out a jar. He did reach in there for something. There's a mason jar with 2 photographs, and one of the photographs is just like a portrait of the girl that they just saw kill herself in the back of their van. And then the other side is a family portrait of her holding like a daughter, holding a kid, holding an infant. And they're like, that's weird. Like, and they're pretty spooked by this. Like they realize the connection, and they know something's fishy here. So Beale says, "Look, let's find Kemper and get the hell out of here." Morgan says, "Okay." But he asks for the keys to the van. She refuses the keys, and Pepper and him kind of gang up, and Pepper's like, "Well, who made you the boss? Like, who made you the leader of this group? Why can't we do what we want to do?" This is a drink alert. This is a drink alert because had they gotten the van and left, maybe things would be okay. But I do think it's really, really fucked in this moment that they even suggest that, because I don't think we're at the point where it's okay to leave a man behind. Things are weird and there's a lot of red flags, but the thought that they would want to leave him behind at this point is quite early to me.
Doesn't it makes absolutely zero sense. I don't know if he was asking for the keys for what. Her boyfriend is missing. It's his car, for Christ's sake.
His car. That's the crazy thing to me. It's not your car. Like,
what did you want the key? You want to listen to some music in the car while you wait for them? Like, that's the only logical explanation. And for Pepper to be on board.
Pepper is, I really think, the crusader, because Morgan doesn't really make it totally known that they want to leave without him. Pepper is the one that's like, look, I like my teeth. I want to get the fuck out of here. Let's leave. And she's the one that really kind of leans into the idea that they just want to leave without him, whereas Morgan's a little bit more abstract about it. But Pepper, fuck Pepper.
I mean, she's a wild card. She's only been 19 hours in.
Peasant
so
shirt,
she, could be like, all right, you and me, let's get out of here. We'll make a hightail for it. Maybe I'll fuck you in the backseat. Who knows? Who knows? But it didn't seem like the right time for, especially after that joke he just pulled. Doesn't make any sense for his character. Doesn't make any sense. It makes maybe a little bit of sense for Pepper, but like, I'm glad that Andy was the one to be like, well, I'm not leaving without my friend. That's stupid. Yeah. I would never do that.
Well, thank God.
Well, thank
honestly.
you.
But I agree that I think Pepper is the least connected to this group. But Morgan, fuck Morgan. Little weasel. I called it from the start. That guy is a little weasel. And
I think that suicide really affected him. He's not really understanding the things that he's saying. And so
you have a crush on him.
Of course. Have you seen the fucking man? Have you seen the actor, period? Like, what he's done I've seen a lot of things with him in it. He also was in The Ruins. You haven't seen The Ruins.
Damn it. Real quick.
You need to see The Ruins.
So anyway, Morgan and Pepper are scum. They want to leave without Kemper. Andy and Beal are like, nah, we're not doing that. So Andy and Erin go to look for him. Cut back to old Leatherface's chamber. He is now hanging Kemper up by his feet and like I think to drain the blood out of him. I don't know. He's hanging him over a bathtub, and as he's doing this, we hear plop, and we see something fall into the dirty, bloody water, and it's a little ring box, and inside is the little tear-shaped engagement ring that Jessica Biel wanted. And if only she had not stopped for this weird, dirty nightgown chick, she could be wearing it. He could have proposed to her at the Lynyrd Skynyrd concert, but that is all far.
That's what was gonna happen.
That's what was gonna happen. Probably to Freebird, just like she always wanted.
No,
and now,
the foreshadowing in the fucking van.
This is what being a good person does. You know what I mean? Ooh.
I can't. I can't. Sad face. I hate when you understand something about the person before they died that they never got to complete in life. And maybe this is also saying more about me too. I think the only other thing is it shows how much Thomas Hewitt, Leatherface, is a killer. And he's not, I don't think he has the wherewithal to like think about all that, but he does.
He does open it up and give it a lookie. We don't know what he does with it, but
he says, like, "Ooh, a shiny thing."
It's very much a shiny thing.
He's gonna put it along with the trinkets, the ears, and the fingers.
So Beal and Andy are back at the creepy house. They make this plan that Beal is going to distract the man in a wheelchair who's, for some reason, sitting outside the house. He's just sitting in front of the house. So she's going to go up and distract him, and Andy is going to sneak into the house and look for Kemper. Oh, God. She's doing a terrible job at distracting this man. Somebody needs to take some acting lessons. She's talking about his garden, saying, oh, it looks so plentiful. Plentiful. I don't think I've ever heard anybody use that word in life. She's being like very not believable, and this guy's kind of looking at her like he knows something's up. Inside, Andy is not being stealth. He opens I don't know why he opens the fridge. Do you think he's in there? He opens the fridge, and it looks like another fridge. I don't think it is. Like something like an icebox, something giant falls, and it makes a huge clang, alerting, the man in the wheelchair that somebody's inside his house. But Beale also thinks something has gone wrong, so she runs into the house to check on him. She gets in, she sees he's fine, and he just broke the icebox. But the old man is fucking pissed. What are you doing in my house? And Andy tells him, just relax. We're just looking for our friend. And the man responds, you little turd. You're so dead you don't even know it yet. Again, the dialogue of these little side characters is fire. And then the dialogue of her ensemble cast is trash. But he makes this declaration, you are so dead you don't even know it yet. And then he taps on the floor with his cane and says, let's go, boy, let's go. And he continues to tap, and Andy and Erin think like he's trying to take him, like that he's gonna fight him. And so they're kind of not laughing, but they're kind of like looking at each other like, oh, this is silly. And then all of a sudden behind them, the door opens and there's old Leatherface ready to wreak havoc. They turn and scream. They run from him. Of course, a fucking course. Andy falls. And whatever. And Beale closes. She is really a final girl energy here. She closes the fucking double doors and is trying to like keep out Leatherface and hold him back. Du Bois has a chainsaw though, so he is like going through the door. She's able to hold him off for a moment, but Andy, for some reason, he can't get up. I think the wheelchair man is like keeping him down. I don't know what's happening here, but he cannot get up.
I have a lot to say. I'm getting excited. I'm remembering the scene. They run like fucking cockroaches. Both of them. they sprint. The chainsaw's up and at him, buzzing in everybody's face. He bolts. He falls. The tire iron falls to the ground. Old Man River runs over the tire iron to make it so that he couldn't get it.
Yeah.
Like he couldn't protect himself. And Jessica Biel does the double door. He buzzes right through that fucking thing. She immediately books it out the fucking front door. And I think this is a testament to like the group and the fact that all of them have this close-knit relationship. He is like, run, like get out of here. Essentially save yourself. And this happens not once in the movie. This happens several times.
Oh, I think they all do that. Like they all tell each other, like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Which is a good friendship energy to have. I encourage that.
Yes. Eventually, Leatherface comes face to face with Hottie, McHot Andy. And he finally gets his tire iron loose. Chainsaw to tire iron, sparks flying everywhere. It's an action scene. My heart is racing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
His chainsaw goes right to the floor and like starts buzzing through the floorboard, stuck there. He has a chance to get out. And in this moment, he starts running through the hung up sheets outside. I don't know why you run through the sheets, but you made a choice to do so. They're blowing in the wind. You're getting wrapped up in them. I can't run my normal direction here. Erin didn't run through the fucking...
No, she didn't. I think a direct route would have been better, but I don't know if it was a purposeful choice, like he was trying to throw him off, or it was just an accident. Either way, it backfires on homie, like, big time. Like, big time. Yeah.
So, Andy running through the sheets, he's running full force, and it's somehow Leatherface just, like, sideswipes him. He goes around while he's running straight and cuts him at the kneecap straight off.
With like no effort, like literally, like it was like Leatherface was like waiting there and he just ran by him. He's like, pew, pew. Andy.
And honestly, so this happens, we get a limb on the ground that just plops on the scene. And Andy screams. His screams are believable.
Uh-huh. I agree.
1,000%.
Yeah. That boy feeling
Yep.
it. Mm-hmm.
He is feeling that. I'm feeling that. And I'm also sad because the hopefulness that you want for these people, this is why I'm emotionally invested.
Yeah.
Because I'm hearing the stories and now this man has no leg.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck.
And he was trying to be, he was the friend. He was the good friend that went to look for Kemper. And look what it did, you know? It's sad. It's sad. That's what being a good friend does.
Jesus Christ.
Leatherface picks him up and throws him over his shoulder like a little rag doll, takes him into the house. We cut to Beale running through the woods. She gets to the van and the homies, and she's obviously fucking beyond freaked out. We gotta get out of here. We gotta get out of here. And so she jumps into the car seat and she's trying to, she's trying to start the van, and they're all asking her, like, what's wrong? What happened? What's going on? And as she's like freaking out, we get like maybe the biggest jump scare of the whole movie for me. Maybe because I just don't remember this at all. But all of a sudden, boop, inappropriate sheriff pops up next to the window, and Beale is so relieved. She's like, oh my God, thank God. Like, my friend needs help. Yeah. And the sheriff like reaches in like, okay, take a breath. It's all okay. And at this point, it's like, if I hadn't seen this, I would think maybe he's being genuine. Like, this moment seems real. And then he looks over and he sees a little joint and a little ashtray in the van. He said, well, what's this right here? Y'all doing drugs? And he makes a whole fucking stink about it and makes them get out of the van and get in the dirt. And we know from they're fucked. And not only that they're fucked, that this is a corrupt town. We thought so. We perhaps thought maybe this sheriff was somehow involved in the goings on with Leatherface, but now we know for sure.
He thinks she may be overreacting because they're on drugs, and then it's right to accusations. He asks them all to get on the ground. Back at the house, Leatherface picks Andy up, and he puts him on a motherfucking meat hook.
Very rare. I like the call to the OG. That's one of the most iconic scenes of the original. I appreciate it. They show a lot.
Is it believable? Here. They do show a lot. Do you think that could happen?
That you could place a body on a meat hook? Oh, hell yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
Is that meat hook not like swinging? It's planted.
Maybe he would have
jostled a little bit. I don't know. I think the mass of that man to the hook, like, he would have fell forward. I don't think it would have like hooked into him. You know what I'm saying?
I see. Yeah.
Like, maybe it would, like, he could have hung him up by the shirt maybe easily, and that would have tore, and maybe that's what we should have seen.
If he hung it as you put his body, I don't know. I see what you're saying. I don't know if it would have fallen the way that it fell, where he was like so upright. But maybe if he put him on it forcefully enough, I think he could have. I don't know.
I think it's possible too. We're gonna have to leave it up to the fans. Make that a poll.
Mythbusters.
Mythbusters. Either way, he gets put on a motherfucking meat hook, and I wrote that because it's harsh.
Yeah.
And hard to watch.
Very.
And even Andy's cries after that seem so like little boy and innocent and like helpless. I mean, if you can make a noise for acting, you did that shit.
Yeah.
It's not macho manly like, it's like, like, it's fucked.
I do think that makes it almost more manly because it's very controlled. He doesn't want to cry out. Like, it's a choice what he's doing. He's being really controlled about it. Yeah. I would just be like consistently screaming for fucking out.
Yeah.
So brava.
Either way, we go back to Pepper, Morgan, and Erin all in the dirt in front of the van as Hoyt reads out their IDs. Arizona, Colorado, New York, and tossing them on the ground next to him. Erin looks back. She's crying in the dirt. She says, "Please, he's killing them." And he says, "Now we're getting someplace. Who's killing who?" And she said, "There's a guy with a fucking chainsaw." He pushes her back in the dirt. They all have snot and spit and tears dripping from their faces mixed with the dirt. They can barely breathe. And I'm like, I'm here. I feel this. This is realistic. You know what I'm saying?
I do know what you're saying. It's just funny how we both took in this experience in very different ways, because this was the moment where I was like, I want to turn this off. I'm fucking
This is the moment where I was like, this shot with the headlights on top of the three bodies, I'm obsessed.
This is where I wanted to jump ship and say, I'm going to read the Wikipedia and figure what the fuck happened. I was not down with this. Beale, you fucked yourself over, and
you're going right back to her decision making. You're like, this bitch did it all. I can't watch this.
Yeah, I'm not a
I can't watch this because she is the culprit.
Yeah, it's all her doing. Yeah, but
either way, Hoyt continues on to say, "You know what I think? I think your boyfriend shot that little girl, and then he ran off." Angry Erin says, "He did not. Some fucking guy with a..." And then he shoots the ground in front of Erin. Pepper right next to her is literally screaming. And you know that the actress, what's her name again?
Pepper Ann, no one better than Pepper Ann. Erica Learson.
Erica Learson. She, in her audition, I guess, screamed so loud that somebody called the police because it was that believable.
Wow.
This, to me, is giving what I read about that. It was that moment where I was like, did he actually shoot the main girl? I didn't know if she got shot or not, and it was just the ground right next to her. So this dick continues. He said, "You girls better get yourselves under control." He picks up Morgan from the ground and says, "I need to know exactly what happened to that van." And Morgan says, "We already told you." And Hoyt's response is, "And now you're going to show me." Back at the house, Leatherface is sitting in it. And what you said earlier about not getting character development from Leatherface, this is one of those moments where I say,
I will say we do get, I know exactly the scene you're talking about with his little sewing machine. And I agree. Yes. This is a little glimpse into this character for sure.
So the fact that Leatherface is sitting in a chair sewing Kemper's face to make a new patchwork for his mask is amazing. This is what I want to see. This
very
is
telling. It is.
It's very telling,
more
and it's
than
such
the original. Yeah,
it's giving such a short scene, but it's something that I really, really appreciated. And he takes off his original mask, and we get to see what's underneath. And this motherfucker is missing a nose. Part of his face is missing. Yeah. Apparently, he had a skin disease that disfigured his face. What do we think about that?
You know what? I almost don't love knowing. It's the same reason I don't like Rob Zombie's original Halloween. I don't want to know what created the monster. I just want to see the monster. It makes me feel empathy. It makes me feel sad, but it also makes me think like he's a product of the home that he was raised in. He had the skin disease and he was raised by a bunch of crazy fucks that created this environment for him to do the things that he did. He wouldn't have just done this out of the womb. He was bred to do this, and they created a whole fucking town that led for him the ability to do this and gave him this option. And so there's something about him that's very childlike and sad, and it makes me feel things that I don't want to feel. I didn't want to see him it was a little sad. So in the face. It made me feel.
I mean, it's not for
way.
nothing. He is sewing someone's face. So, like, it's messed up. And at some points, like, you're thinking, does he know how messed up it truly is? Like, what are the thoughts?
So.
I don't think you want to understand the thoughts of Leatherface. I, on the other hand, want to know more. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. Either way, we get back, and you're not going to like this either. We get back to Hoyt and Morgan in the car. And Sheriff says, so is that where she was sitting? Because the angle don't add up for me with the blood on the back of that window. Terrified Morgan looks back at the hole in the window and says, maybe it was a bit more in the middle. Hoyt says, well, maybe you ought to move a little bit more over to the middle. And Morgan says, but, and then looks down at the hair and brain pieces on the seat. He says, what are you, afraid of a little blood? Now, I don't have much of an imagination, so I need to get a distinct image of what went down here. Take the gun and show me how she did it. He's brushing it up against his face, like on his lip. And then he yells, take the goddamn gun. And he holds it up to his chin. Morgan's like shaking. And he's just like, please, please, please. The back and forth here, it's a great scene. Erin gets up from the dirt and says, hey, what's going on? Morgan, are you okay? Hoyt looks back and says, get back in the dirt till I tell you otherwise. Typical fucking man of power. Cop. Morgan takes the gun after Hoyt's distracted, and he takes the gun and then he points it at Hoyt. And in a fit of rage, he says, you motherfucker! Get on the fucking floor!
I commend him because, you know what? If there was a bullet, this would have been the move. Of course, this would have been the move. But if you would have just, used your noggin, you would have realized that he would have never given you a loaded gun. Even the stupid hick, nobody fucking town cop, he wouldn't have given you that power. He just wouldn't have. And I just,
it's the fact of the matter of like Hoyt is controlling them because he is perceived the man of power. And right. We don't know, maybe, well, I didn't know this until the next film, that he's not even a sheriff. But yeah, which is
next film.
You know what?
No, I don't. I'm not interested.
You need to watch
I'll talk to you about it later. I don't want to watch it.
You need to watch it. I need you to watch this. I'm buzzing right now. That's what they say in Love Island.
I'll look at Wikipedia.
You better not.
Down. I'm not
you better
down.
not, bitch.
But I'm
Hoyt looks at him and says, what are you gonna do? Shoot me? Erin tries to calm him down and says, like, just please put the gun down, okay? Like, Pepper gets up at this point. It's a whole scenario. Hoyt says, you don't have the fucking balls, do you? Pull the fucking trigger. Morgan cries and says, fuck you, and clicks, but no shots. This is literally everything Hoyt says in this movie is gold.
Oh.
He says, well, looky here. We got ourselves a killer. Only this time, you killed a sheriff. He pulls out the pistol and points it at Morgan. He says, I ought to blow your fucking brains out now. Get out of the van. He takes the keys to the van. Shit.
Mm-hmm.
Back at the house, Andy is still hooked and going in and out of consciousness. He's seen trying to lift himself off of the hook, but slips and falls back onto it.
This is what I'm talking about editing. They didn't need that. We didn't need it. That added nothing. That added nothing to my experience for this film.
I said, Jesus Christ. They're keeping me where they want me. This whole movie is, I'm signed in. You're their target
audience. You're their target audience, and I am their opposite of their target audience.
I said, I don't need to see this. That's what you said.
Too much. Cutting room floor. This is a cutting room floor moment.
Oh my God. Here we are back at the car. He drives away with Morgan. He leaves the girls. Morgan's in the back of the cop car. He says, this is bullshit. I have rights. Hoyt's sipping alcohol and laughing at him as he's driving the cop car. He says, yeah, you got rights, okay? Where was y'all headed? Morgan says, Dallas for a Skynyrd concert. And he's so like mopey at this point and sad and depleted of hope. Yeah. Hoyt says, Skynyrd? I like Skynyrd. Well, look at that. We have something in common, don't we? Then he says, well, now what are you going to do with your tickets, hot shot? And Morgan says, you can have them. And then Hoyt says, is that bribery? He looks back at him and hits him in the face with a bottle and knocks his glasses off and his teeth out. In the same breath, just like his iconic shit earlier, he pulls out his own teeth and says, well, look at that. We have something else in common now. See that?
That's pretty funny. I did laugh at that. That was funny. That was pretty good.
I mean, yes, more please.
Yeah.
So he gets on his cop car radio and he says, get on over to the old Crawford mill. Those two fillies are ready to go. That's when we know. I mean, that's when it's
scheme.
That's when it's
completely
implied
obvious.
the most.
Yeah.
But back at the car, Erin is trying to start it with a knife. Pepper, on the other hand, is nervously shaking with the flash.
Fucking bitch. Unbelievable. Beale is really doing the most here, and this bitch can't even hold a fucking flashlight. I am unbelievable.
The clicking of the flashlight.
Yo, lady, we all scared. We all nervous right now. Come on, pull it together.
Hoyt arrives back at the house and says, get out of the car. Throws him in the fucking mud, pushes him into the house. Back at the car, the girls get the car to start.
Oof.
Which is hopeful.
Big win.
They start to drive away and we're like, wow, what are they going to do now that like they have this car? They're going to get away until the wheels fucking fall off.
Big trouble now.
Set up.
Yeah.
They barely get a chance to recollect the fact that the wheels fell off before the buzzing of a chainsaw cuts through the back of the car.
That was crazy. This was a jump scare for me. I knew he was coming. But I was like, oh shit, he's right fucking there. It was a shock. I felt shocked.
You know what? I keep have the understanding that like I get really hopeful and I'm like, I like these people, and then it's like, oh fuck, and then shit is just like cut off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck. Like we're fucked again. He pushes through the driver's side window with the fucking chainsaw. They crawl into the back, and Leatherface then gets on top of the van. He slices holes in the top to try and get them. There's a lot of screaming. There's a lot of buzzing. There's a lot of sparks.
Too much. Yeah.
It's exciting. He nicks Pepper's shoulder, and the fabric from her puffy coat goes everywhere. So she gets out of the van and she makes a run for it. And he gets off of the top of the van and chases after her. And then she tries to push like this tin barrel in his way, but the force knocks her over and she falls to the ground. And then off camera, she's chainsawed. But the shot of him like drilling into the ground so you know what's happening, and then just the puffer fucking fabric flying up everywhere is a great effect, honestly.
I mean, the real magic of this scene is him turning around and looking at Erin and him wearing Kemper's face. That's where I got reinvested. I was like, I'm out. I'm done with this shit. And then that happened. I was like, oh, I am back in. That is the most aggressive possible move. And just the not the realism, but like that's his face. It's not like a moment where it's like, oh, that kind of looked like that is his face. That is Kemper's face. It's like, wow, that was intense. That was unexpected.
I wrote truly a chills moment.
Yes, I agree.
I was fully chilled. I was in shock. I was gobsmacked. So we all know he's dead.
Yeah.
And well, I guess we knew before when he was sewing the face, but like this was Erin's realization that like Kemper is gone.
But this is like no questions now. Like this is, I mean, brutal.
I feel like also the like her acting in knowing the familiarity of his face and then understanding like what the fuck, it was kind of good.
I agree. This was a good Beale moment. I think it was believable. She gave it in this moment. Yeah. She's pretty good in this moment.
Okay, so Erin naturally runs off into the woods.
Yeah.
Leatherface clearly running after her with a chainsaw. Smoke billowing out from the fucking thing. She finds Hope in an RV with the lights on in the woods. She bangs on the door, but no answer. Then a hand grabs her shoulder in another jump scare. She runs inside and past these two women who are just staring at her. One of them seems to be like frail and weird, and the other seems to be a little bit older and like she belongs at a game of bingo or something. And they want to give her tea and try to softly say like, no one's going to come through that door. There's a little bit too much of like a quiet, you know what's happening outside, but they're just like, have like smooth jazz on in the back, and they're like, it's okay, no one's coming through that door.
But
and
I do find it oddly relaxing, even though I agree like it's a false relaxing. Like I don't really fully believe it, but like something about their temperament in this moment makes me feel better, even though I know it's not.
Yeah, and I also love the juxtaposition of going from like a loud chainsaw to like a, it's okay, quiet, darling, nobody's coming through that door.
Yeah.
And through her tears, Erin says that she just really needs to use a phone. But they say they don't have one. And she's like, the bingo lady, which I will call her, she said, phones are a hassle.
True dat. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Truth.
Facts.
Facts.
Mm-hmm.
And Erin's like, don't you get it? He's going to kill you. He's going to kill all of us. And then the weird frail woman says, oh, no, he won't. He knows better than to be messing around here. Poor sweet boy. Sweet boy. He's no harm. Now Erin's like, okay, I'm in cuckoo land.
Yeah.
So she loses it and she says, I don't want any more tea. They're trying to like force it down her throat. She takes a sip. She says,
is a drink alert though, because she does take a fucking sip. And if she hadn't.
Well, she says, I don't want any more tea. I just need a phone. And her yelling wakes up the baby in the back room. And she gets up and she starts looking around. She sees the same photo that Morgan found in the car. And suddenly she starts to feel a little faint. And then here's a phone ring. Ring. So she goes back there and she confronts the woman and tells her basically that you stole that baby.
Very brazen of her in the situation that she's in to be accusatory. I mean, like, again, I don't like her character, but she's a ball buster. She ain't taking no shit. And I do appreciate that.
And that's where I kind of see myself. Anyway, was this the lady who shot her shot? Was this her kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So now we know. They took her baby. Like there's a lot to her story now. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And she calls her out, but then she passes out in the living room. Erin wakes up to Hoyt. Same scene, pouring beer on top of her face to wake her up.
In between his legs, in his underwear. whitey.
He's comfy at home. He's like, this is a Tuesday for me. And in the same living room, we see the old woman from the gas station.
My girl. Mm-hmm.
Your girl, Grams, whatever her name is. She's ironing clothes in the living room. It's weird because she's like kind of on, the woman's side, but she's like, give her some space and whatever. And the little kid from before with the Jedediah, he's on the outside porch listening in. He yells out, Grandma, let me in. And she says, you best stay out there with them dogs.
Poor Jedediah. I don't really like him. He's a little freak, but
he's got that dog in him.
He's a product of something that he didn't have anything to do with. He wouldn't have been raised in this environment if he could have helped it. It's sad. It's sad. Yeah.
Erin at this point is in between Holt's legs, like you said, and is begging them to let her go. Grandma looks at her and says, I know you're kind. Nothing but cruelty and ridicule for my boy. Then we get this miniature scene of Leatherface in another room, just like overwhelmed behind a door. Again, he's been ridiculed and bullied his whole life.
I don't fucking like this. Yeah,
and we go back to Grams as she says, does anybody care about me and my boy? Huh?
Way to make it about yourself, lady.
Grams.
Yeah.
She's great. She's special.
She's one of my favorite characters.
She's really special. The little kid is asking them not to hurt Erin. Jedediah is asking him, don't hurt her.
Jed.
And Erin's screaming for help until Graham says, Tommy, you get in here. And in walks Tommy Leatherface, motherfucker. And Erin freaks out and she's screaming, no, no. And he just picks her up, throws her down the stairs to the basement, and she gets a glimpse of her surroundings, which are fingers, corpses, etc. And she sees Andy up there trying to hold himself up. He looks like Jesus on a cross.
He does.
Straight up the imagery. For some reason, his body is hung under a piano.
Yeah. What's that about?
And there's a shot with just like his toes are seen like barely touching the keys. Bing, 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 bing. Yeah, that's how deep it gets. So she tries to lift him off of the hook as well. And he's saying stop. He basically looks at her and says, Erin, I'm dead. Finish it. And then there's this moment where she can't do it. This is where I will say that her acting is poor. I think she flops here. She says she can't pick him up. She can't kill him. She does finally get the knife and stab him through the stomach. Andy's gone. R.I.P. She heads into another room to find Morgan, who's laying in a bathtub with a wound on his back. And she tries to wake him up, and he flails about. He's alive, but he's also still handcuffed. So there's a little bit of hope, but like he's on his last legs too. So the little kid, Jedediah, appears in the basement and tells them to come with him through this passageway to get out. And Leatherface is looking through the cracks and says he knows what's going on. He comes downstairs, chainsaw in hand. So they follow Jedediah through this tunnel, and they get to a spot where there's like stairs to go up, and he's trying to get them out of there. And they try to go up the stairs, but of course one of the rungs break, and then Leatherface's chainsaw runs out of gas or stalls out or something. So there's like this tense moment,
right?
And he tries to grab Erin up the stairs, but she kicks the chainsaw out of his hand. And then Jed tries to bite his hand, but is pushed out of the way. He's trying to help. And they get out in this opening in the yard, and they close the door behind them. Erin tries to get Morgan sort of like up and running, while Leatherface just saws through the door, buzzes through that wood block that's holding it. And then the chase is on. Big time. 20 minutes.
Lasts for fucking ever. Yeah. This is,
they get to a shack in the woods. They try to put a couch in front of the door, and he's immediately right there. He's just at the door, buzzing through it. More suspense. So they go into another room. This shack has a lot of rooms. Mm-hmm. They're looking around a long time in there.
Yeah.
Whose is it? Mm-hmm. Who knows? Erin is essentially dragging Morgan at this point. You alluded to this earlier. Yeah. She is doing the most.
Holding him up. I mean, this is really incredible. For this is basically a third-degree friend. This is like a friend of her boyfriend's friend that she doesn't even really like, and she's doing the most for this dude. Mm-hmm.
So she's dragging this man who's handcuffed and like can't even speak because his teeth are falling out. She puts Morgan in a closet and maneuvers herself in like this little cutout of the wall, and suspense is building. Erin pushes these rats that are following her. She pushes them off of her, which alerts Leatherface, and he essentially pulls her from behind the wall and out into the room where Morgan gets out of the closet. He throws her down on the ground. He, chainsaws up. He revs up his chainsaw. He's ready to slice and dice. And then Morgan, in the act of bravery at the final hour, just lunges at him and pushes him off of her. He drops the chainsaw again. But this time, when he drops it, it's literally buzzing at Erin's face, and the screen is right there capturing it all.
Yeah.
Woo. I like that shot.
It's a good shot, but this is another drink alert moment because Erin gets up and she tries to help. She's like pushing Leatherface, whatever, but she's ignoring the fact that there is a chainsaw on the ground. And if she had just picked up the chainsaw and pulled one up, all this would have been over. And
you know what? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Very upsetting.
Leather. I just wrote leather this time. Leather pushes her out of the way and grabs Morgan and hangs him from the chandelier in the room by his handcuffs. And then Leatherface just,
slices the second half of his body off.
Yeah.
Like that.
She runs out of the shack screaming. Obviously, she just saw another friend get fucking die.
Nice.
And then this is the moment where I said, he's running after her, chasing her through the woods again. I said, the stamina of this man.
Especially that big of a man. With yielding a fucking chainsaw. Pew, pew, pew. The thing is heavy. Chainsaws are very heavy. And they take a lot of like ab workouts to control like the motor.
Mm-hmm.
Not easy. So he's doing a lot. Ain't no joke what he's doing.
Yeah, he got his 8 hours of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. She goes through a barbed wire fence. While he tries to do it, he ends up cutting his own leg with the chainsaw, which is a moment that was like, oh my God, he is like human, but
he's a
also
bumbling fool. Yeah.
Yeah, the bumbling idiot, the fool.
He's a fool. Mm-hmm.
The buffoon. But also, he cut himself, and win point for Jessica Biel.
Yeah, big time.
She goes through the brush to get to the meatpacking plant. She goes to the meat fridge with all the hanging animal carcasses. There are many places to hide, but she finds herself in the middle of a cow's chest with coverage on both sides. So we got ribs on either side. He pulls the chains to get them all moving on the hooks. Finds her and tries to buzz through her when she falls, but she manages to kick him in the balls and runs out. Good on you.
Yeah.
Final girl energy. She finds a meat cleaver. Get a weapon, girlie. You're going to have to face off against them. And as Leatherface is now really the focus is on him. and he's looking for her, and she's hiding in a locker with this cleaver, and he starts to open them one by one as she kind of like prepares for what's going to happen, the meeting. And he goes to hers, but then turns to another one because he hears a noise. And he readies his chainsaw and opens it to find a pig in there. Now, did she plant that there?
That's
I
what
want to know
I'm
this.
wondering. Like, I don't because she
Why would a
tries to
pig be in a
alert
locker?
him. Like she
Mhm.
like goes, "Hey!" Like she tries to get him over to that point. So did she put the pig in there so that there would be noises? If she did, that was a super brilliant move. Maybe she just knew the pig was in there, but either
Why
way,
would a pig be in a locker?
she had to have planted the pig. But when did she do that? You know,
I'm
there's a lot
gonna
of
I'm
questions
gonna chalk it up to. I mean, she did go past a lot of pigs in that thing.
there. It's true.
Um, I'm gonna say that she was smart enough to do so, and she
Mm-hmm.
puts this pig in there. So he opens it, the pig's there. He's like, "What the fuck?" And she pops out behind him and starts whacking with the meat cleaver at his arm that's holding the chainsaw. Another smart move. And she hacks off his arm, the one that's
And
holding
how
the chain.
that had to have been the sharpest meat cleaver of all time. And you have to hack at the same point. This is a little unrealistic. I mean, I
Yes.
appreciate it for what it is, but I'm like, you ain't fooling me. She couldn't have
I
done
hear
that with a
you.
meat cleaver. That's not what happened. But all right.
He, after this, is seen trying to get his own arm attached to the handle off of it. Are you sad?
Something about this is a little sad. You can see him try to pick it up with the other hand, but then he's off balance because it's a fucking chainsaw and you've just lost an arm. And
Yeah.
I'm not sad for him, but something about the fact that he is obviously psychologically not there and he's been raised by
Yeah.
this cuckoo family and he's lost an arm and he's like, what? Something about it made me feel sad. And then I didn't like feeling sad. I didn't like any part of this. It's like, well, I shouldn't. He's a fucking
Right.
murderer. I didn't
Yeah.
like it.
And the like handle, I mean, like the chainsaw going around in a circle, and he was just like spent. He falls to the ground. I mean, like sits on the ground essentially.
Yeah.
She makes it out of the meat factory through the rain. It's raining now outside,
Mm.
so she gets out there. It's raining, and she gets to the road again where a huge truck is driving by, and she gets it to stop, and she gets in, and the guy says like, "Oh my god, what are you doing out here? Like, let's get you some help." And she eventually starts going through the same emotions as the original girl that we
Yeah.
saw blow her brains out. And she says, "I just want to go home." And when he gets close to the gas station, she freaks out and she tries to turn the car around the same way. And she sees the police car, but the guy stops right at the gas station. And he's like, "I'm done with this shit. I got to go in and ask for help."
Yeah.
And Erin gets out also to look through the window of the gas station, and she sees the girl with the baby and Hoyt and grandma, and they're all having a good old time feeding the kid. And he's like, "This girl, she's hurt, she's injured, she's in my car." They go out to find her in the car, but she goes through the back. Erin goes through the back of the gas station to get the baby.
Yeah. What's the loyalty to the baby? This is a whole thing I don't really understand, but
It's,
okay.
you know what? I
Miss
guess
Saint
it's
Jessica Biel.
yeah.
That's her whole plight in this whole movie.
She's really trying to hold on to that humanitarian.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't yours, baby, whatever.
Yeah.
I also heard that in an alternate ending, she was pregnant with Kemper's kid
That would have been interesting. Oh well, but I don't know what the
because
twist
she
would have
didn't
been
do the
there.
drugs and she didn't have do the
Oh,
partying,
that does make sense. That makes a lot of
right?
sense, actually. Oh, I'm happy they
Al-
didn't go with that. That would have been a little bit sad. It would have been an extra little for no reason.
Yeah.
Didn't need it.
Either way, she goes back in, she takes the baby, and they freak out. You know, the woman freaks out, the frail woman. Hoyt goes to find her in the car, but she is quickly rewiring a car to jumpstart it. And he finally opens the door to the truck, and there's no one inside, right? And then we get a scene where she just runs him over with his own cop car because that's the one that she restarted. And she runs him over, and then she revs up and backs over his ass once and then runs him over one more time for good
Really
measure.
amazing. Really amazing. This is her real triumph. This moment of just full winning, getting one over on them. This is really good.
This is great. Until she's driving away with the baby in the front seat. And then I say, child endangerment?
Until she's driving away with the baby. The baby's really cute. The baby's like kind of like the baby's like laughing with her. And then but then, you know, of course, they have to add that one little last woof, and fucking Leatherface comes out of nowhere and she barely has a reaction. She's like, oh, maybe she's just seen it all at this point.
And they pan to him, and he's seen maniacally looking at her drive away.
Leatherface?
Which is, yeah.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
he has like a...
You got away from me. Yeah. Well, yeah, because she got away from him.
But
she
also,
won.
but also emotion from this man who, you know, otherwise doesn't show emotion.
Yeah.
There's some development there.
Sure.
Then we cut. So she drives off. We cut to the beginning scene of the officer doing his police report 2 days later, because they told us in the beginning, and he's in the basement of the family residence, and they get to a door and they hear a sound. And this man feels like he gets scared to death. And so he falls on the ground. The camera fumbles and shakes and catches like glimpses of Leatherface, with the ending voiceover saying, "The crime scene was not properly secured by Travis County Police. 2 investigating officers were fatally wounded that day. This is the only image of Thomas Hewitt, the man they call Leatherface." It's a black and white, like hard exposure pic of him. It's pretty good.
It's really good.
And then they say, "The case today still remains open."
Here at Stoli Doli Scaries, we rate our movies based on how many Stoli Dolis it would take you to watch the movie. What's your scale? It's 1 to 4.
1 to 5?
Was it 1 to 5? I think 5. We'd fucking die. I'm gonna give
nothing's been that bad so far.
That's true. Yeah. I think it's 1 to 5, and I would give this a 3. I would give this my highest rating. I had a really hard time getting through this. For all the things I've said, I liked the setup. I liked what they were trying to do. I don't think they leaned into the 70s aspect of it enough, and that bugged me. I felt there wasn't enough editing. They could have edited so much out of this that would have made it more suspenseful, better, maybe more invested in it. But there were so many moments where I was looking at my phone where I was just like, all right, are we still fucking here? We're in the meat locker now? I don't know. It took me out of it too much because I just couldn't connect. I felt like the character development wasn't enough. I think Beale saved it for us at the end. She had a moment at the end that was really special. But for the other characters, I didn't feel invested enough in them to care about their deaths. Yeah. It missed the mark for me.
Damn. That'd be tough, moms. I will say that famously, Roger Ebert gave this film a 0 stars. And I will follow suit and say that I would need 0 Stoli
Dolis for this. Wow.
To watch this film. And I'm going to say that just because of the context that we're in. I was going to give it a 1 to like bypass some of the like, you know, not correct 70s reference, whatever sort of things. I, on the contrary, was invested in the characters. I was invested in the storyline. I don't think it's not like life-changing of a concept, but I did like the filtering. I did like the sweatiness. I liked the dampness. I liked, you know what I didn't like is the kid of it all. That was another editing moment.
Yeah.
Did we need to have, the full runaround scene with Morgan? Like, he could have died off camera and she could have saw his body in the basement. Of course it could have been edited, but I think that mainly for this it comes down to nostalgia is what it really comes down to. We've been talking a lot about this and a lot about the time of 2003, a lot about like all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about the 70s. I was thinking about the clothes they were wearing. I was thinking about the fact that I watched this at 16 and I was like, gore, let's go. I was thinking about the comedy of Hoyt and also the fact that I hated him so much. Like, it brought a lot of feeling out of me.
Sure.
Even when I'm describing like these death scenes, like I got chills at one moment. And that for me is enough of like a grabbing sort of, what is it, like tangible something that a movie can give you. And that's like all I want a movie to give me.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, so much for joining us. We missed you, and we're so happy to talk to you again. We really did miss you. And we look forward to talking to you next time. Until then, don't pick up a hitchhiker. Don't do it.